Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Let's Chat Reality. I'm Molly,
I'm Michael.
and we're coming at you today, recording on Labor Day. So we hope you all had a great Labor Day weekend. And Michael, how was your weekend?
It's been good. It was one of my best friend's birthdays today, so celebrated that, and nice to just have a long weekend. What about
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, I had also one of my friends' birthdays was yesterday, and so or on Saturday. I don't even know the days. End of August, but it was a lot of fun to celebrate. And we went zip lining actually on Lake Travis, which I know you also got
Fun.
to do when you were in Austin.
Yeah.
Which that was so much fun. I really recommend if you're curious about any zip lining adventures in Texas. The Lake Travis zip line adventures was a lot of fun. Plug to them. But yeah, it was. I love ziplining, so it was fun.
That's exciting.
Yeah,
Let's get into some
but
shows.
yeah, so let's just jump right in to talking about Love Is Blind UK. So this is out on Netflix. We just finished watching it ourselves, even though the finale or the reunion aired last week. But just wanted to go through some of our thoughts overall on this season, as Love Is Blind is one of our favorite shows, and it was exciting to watch it in the UK version. But first, what were your thoughts overall on this season? Or it's the first time they actually did the UK. So what were your thoughts on it overall?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I mean, I love a foreign accent that I really can't understand. I have to most US shows I can kind of watch on like 1.25 speed, to get through it a little faster. I tried doing that with Love is Blind UK and I was like, "Oh my god, I can't understand a single word they're saying." So, it was good. I really liked the fact that it felt like these people were very real. I feel like sometimes after a few seasons with at least with US shows and probably the same with UK, but lately on like US Love is Blind seasons, I'll say, I feel like it's felt like more and more like they feel a need to like one up themselves season after season, and the cast just gets more and more kind of like in unrealistic relationships. I'm almost thinking maybe even more so than Love is Blind. I feel that way with Married at First Sight. Like where these last like however many seasons of Married at First Sight, it's like they are not even trying to put compatible couples together anymore on that show. Like they are just saying we are just going to make every single one of these couples the most dramatic as humanly possible. And with this show, comparatively, I feel like most of these couples, like, I felt like they actually had a chance to make it. Like, I did feel like, even though they maybe weren't the most entertaining and like having the most drama, it actually felt like, okay, like, there's a potential that a few of these couples could actually legitimately still be together in real life. So I did enjoy it. It felt like more going a little bit like a throwback to the first season of US Love is Blind.
Yeah, I agree. I felt like everyone was really just more authentic in it, and you could tell like they weren't there for that the fame of it. Like it's like some of these seasons of recent Love Is Blind or other reality shows that we see a lot in the US, like they know they can get a good following from this, so they kind of portray themselves maybe in a way that maybe isn't exactly how they are always, just to get more airtime, just like to get the fame from it. But it really felt like these cast members were there to find love, which is always exciting because then that's what you want to happen in this kind of show. So I hope they continue bringing it back because I think it was really, really successful. But let's get into some of our favorite couples of the season. So for me, I just love Freddie. First of all, I mean, him and Kat, I don't think we're a great couple. Obviously, they did not stay together. But I just loved seeing Freddie on my screen. He was so nice and good looking, of course. But I really want him to find love, and I hope that we see him again on our screens because he was great, and he wasn't even trying. Like you could just tell, like that was just him, and that's what was exciting to watch about it.
Yeah, protect Freddie at all costs. Put him on every show. Traders, Perfect Match, I don't know, Golden Bachelor, I don't care. Like just put him wherever. um I yeah, I think that Bobby and Jasmine were probably like the least dramatic couple. Like in terms of just couples that like I was pretty confident we're still going to be together at the reunion. I was pretty confident about them, and I was incorrectly confident about Stephen and Sabrina. I really that threw me for a loop. The fact that they not only were not together, but like it seemed like there's a lot of animosity there between them that we didn't even fully get into at the reunion. Like it felt like the hosts cut them off, where I was like, no, let them keep talking. Like, it's Netflix. There's no time limit. Like, just let them keep going for a bit. So I don't know if maybe there was more and they just edited it out for whatever reason, or whether they did just kind of cut them off like that and midway through what seemed like the argument. I guess, like, if I have to think about it, I feel like they probably were just going in a circle. And at some point, they just had to, like, say, okay, like, we're not getting anywhere here. Let's cut it. But I do feel like there was a lot more unexplored there between the two of them. So I'm interested to see. I know that there has been some social media interactions there and drama between them since the reunion, but I am curious to see if there's going to be more in the future.
Yeah, no, that was definitely an interesting one. It seemed like even when the show was filming, did seem like their distance problem was definitely going to be an issue in the relationship, and obviously that's what seemed like the main cause of it was the distance and just overall that like Steven wasn't putting in that effort that she was to make it work and accommodate for him and all those things. So I don't know. I hope that Sabrina can find love because I like her. But yeah, they didn't seem like overall like they were like gonna hate each other like after the breakup. Like now it seems like oh like there's definitely something that we didn't get to see. But I guess now we won't really get to see it unless like there are interviews and other things that
What
happen
they
from
could
it.
do, I'm curious. I wonder if they're going to do something like, and they really haven't done this on the last couple seasons of US Love is Blind, but they used to do that like 6 months later. What did they call it? You know,
Oh
After the Altar. Is that
yeah,
it? Yeah.
yeah.
Special where they had like the whole pod squad back together for some sort of
Mm.
reunion, like 6 months, a year later, or how, depending on how long after filming the season airs. So I wonder if they either already have or will in the future film something like that for the season, because I feel like it definitely, I don't know. I guess it wouldn't be that entertaining. I feel like really like there's not that many couples with a lot of drama, so I don't know. Maybe we don't need that fully. But yeah, I mean the other couple that I guess that is still together is Benaya and Nicole, and that didn't shock me either. I was pretty not surprised to see that they were still together, because I feel like obviously they had like an interesting start with the Sam of it all, but after they got together, they really didn't have many rough patches. So that was pretty expected that they said yes at the altar and then we're still together a year later.
Yeah, no, the couples that don't get engaged in the pods last when they get engaged after the pods, like we saw with
Zach
oh
and
my god.
Bliss.
Yes, exactly. I was like, I know Bliss and I forgot his name for a second. But it was yeah, so that was exciting to see that because I love Nicole and I was happy like they they kind of did Sam a little bit dirty with his edit, but like I don't think he's like that bad of a guy. Like
I
they're trying to
don't
make him
know.
seem like a villain, and then I'm like, but I
Yeah.
don't know if he's that bad. I think they just like needed someone to be kind of bad on this season because they didn't have anyone like that bad, so they kind of edited him in that way. But I think they just weren't compatible and he was just insecure and that was pretty much it. Like that was my read on it.
Yeah, I do think that Sam comes across as somebody who is very insecure. I think you're right about that. And I will say, like, he did at the reunion, he didn't try to fight back, really. It seemed
Yeah.
like he just kind of like laid down and took it, which, I respect. I think that's better than a lot of other villains that we've seen, a la, someone like Shake on Love is Blind US season 2 that tripled down at the reunion on everything that he had said. So hopefully it was a learning lesson to him, and it will, make him a better person to be able to look back and see things you don't like about yourself and make changes from that. So that's all you can ask for with somebody on a TV show like this, is to make those changes and you know, grow as a person from it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. Do you have any favorite moments from this season?
Um, a moment that I really like enjoyed in a like an awkward way was when Freddie and Kat went shopping.
Oh my god.
And I don't even understand why, but every word that Freddie said was just annoying Kat to a level that was completely unreasonable. But it just made me laugh and like an awkward, like I feel uncomfortable for them in that moment. So that was kind of a weird, entertaining moment. I don't know. Come back to me. What are some of your favorites?
Well, mine was also a little bit like cringy laughing was when Maria and Tom met each other and Maria's lipstick was literally all
Oh yeah.
over Tom. Like, I don't know why Maria chose that specific lipstick in that moment. Like, I think she realized it could transfer. And then so Tom is like talking to her and they're meeting for the first time and he just has full on like red lips because of her
Mhm.
lipstick transferring over. So I think that was just it was
That
just
reminded me so much of Hannah on Love Island this last season when she and Kendall were making out at the beginning, and then like you could see when and all of her makeup is on Kendall's face.
yeah. No, that was really funny. And then I don't know. I feel like we didn't get like crazy moments like with the past cast coming
Yeah.
back. I mean, like with Sam a little bit.
Sam and
But
Kat, like when they were
yeah.
at the Pod Squad reunion, whatever meetup, and they were having their conversation at the bar. That was kind of an interesting moment. That normally we get kind of a lot of those types of moments. I feel like on Love Is Blind, in this season there really wasn't a ton of drama, so like that moment stuck out more probably than it would have otherwise on another season.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Were you surprised by any of the wedding day decisions?
I will say that Ollie and Demi surprised me a little bit. Like overall, I would say I wasn't surprised by most of the decisions, but that one was the one where I was like, okay, it could go either way. Like I wouldn't have been surprised if they got together. I wasn't shocked that they didn't, even though after their wedding, I was like, maybe at the reunion they'll be back together, or at least they'll say that they tried to get back together. Like that, I wouldn't have been surprised if they had said at the reunion, like, yeah, we tried, like, we dated for a bit after, but it just didn't work out type of thing. But yeah, it just, I guess, seems like they were just two people who really like each other as friends, but not in a romantic way.
Yeah. It was interesting. Also, I was a little bit shocked that Kat said I do. And that
Mm,
like she was so like seeming like she still wanted to be with Freddie, even though she knew Freddie had those concerns in
yeah.
their relationship. And so I'm proud of Freddie for saying no there because I don't like obviously they were not compatible in that way, like their lifestyle differences. And now Kat is with someone else who actually was from the pods, but we didn't get to see him. So she's moved on, so she's okay. Like obviously it was heartbreaking for her in that moment, but people move on from heartbreak, so she's good. But with Freddie saying like no at the altar was like not shocking that they broke up, but shocking that it came from him first. In my opinion, like that I thought like she was also gonna say no.
Yeah.
But it was interesting also with all of the breakups that we saw at the altar. At least I don't know if it's the way they edited it, but they all were starting it with "I love you, but I don't want to be with you." Like, why are you saying "I love you" when you don't want to say yes to someone? Like, I don't
I
think you
think
really
it's
love
like,
them.
yeah, I guess it's one of those things where it's like you try to soften the blow because like all of their families are there, and like you try to like make it seem like, because probably a lot of those people, a lot of their families, like they're not totally aware of what's been going on in their relationships. Like I would think that probably like their communication with like their family is like somewhat limited to a degree. And so they probably are just like wanting to show them like, okay, like this is going well, like it's not really toxic or anything, but like I just can't say yes. Like, I really like her or I like him, but it's not gonna work out. And trying to kind of like sandwich that as much as possible, but it doesn't work. Like as soon as they say no, everything you said before that's just going to seem like bullshit. So it doesn't work, but I can see the human desire for not as little awkwardness as possible to try to like soften that blow.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. They're also like being filmed when they're having to break up with someone at the altar. Like that's not a very comfortable position, I imagine.
Hmm.
So I think it's just the fact that all of them started that way. Like I was like, I maybe thought one or two was gonna say that, but not all of them.
Right. No, that was interesting. I don't know that that's something that we necessarily always see. I just can't remember. Maybe it is, but
Yeah, because they were all kind of like trying to work on it. It seemed like, and
mhm.
I mean
Well, and I
that
think it's
trying.
a testament to this season that they paired couples together that had potential to work out. Like most of these relationships that we saw weren't like, oh, this is an obvious no. Like I feel like we normally see that. Like think about like Jimmy and Chelsea or something from last season. Like, okay, this is obviously a horrible relationship they're in. Like there is no way in hell that this is going to ever work out. I feel like we didn't have something like that level this season.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think like they all generally did seem like they could work, which was exciting to watch because then you're like, okay, well, like, are they gonna all last or are they gonna break up? And so the ones that broke up obviously were having issues like values wise or lifestyle wise that are things that you can't look past in something like long term like that. Like, yes, it can work in a dating situation if you're not gonna get married, but it's not gonna work in a marriage.
Mm.
So then that's why they had to break up at the end of the day. But overall, I really love this season. So I'm excited to hopefully see another Love is Blind UK and we get some more good accents to listen to.
Yeah, I bet we will. I feel like this was a pretty solid first season. So I could see definitely getting more from Love is Blind UK in the future.
Yeah, well, let's move on to Claim to Fame. So we had the finale this past week and got to see all of the celebrity relatives now who everyone is related to. And what were your thoughts? This is season 3 of Claim to Fame. So we've been on for a little bit now. But what were your thoughts on this season?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I think that this season, every season, I feel like the gameplay has gone up a level that we've seen on this show. And it started out, I would say, on like a relatively high level. Like, I mean, the season one cast was pretty strategic in a way that I think surprised a lot of people that were tuning into the show and not expecting it to be as much of like a Big Brother or Survivor esque show as it turned into. And I think that that set a precedent that we've seen these last two seasons since then. That they've continued to raise the bar, and I think, and this season it was a shorter season. It was 8 episodes instead of 10, smaller cast, but I still think that we got a pretty decent amount of strategic gameplay this season, and that continued. I mean, I would say right up until the very end. I thought it was a very good finale. Really, the last 2 episodes we got on finale night, back to back, and I thought that they were both pretty good and capped off an entertaining season. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, I mean, so far it seems like they've been casting really well for this show. Like, I think overall, like, the way that the season goes about, like, there's always going to be a strategic level to it, but then it's also like everyone seems to mostly get along, like each other, that, like, adds a level of excitement to it. So, I mean, there's been some relationships that come out of it. So for example, this season we saw some love sparking between Hud and Mackenzie, and it seems like they're still dating today. So that's exciting. Um,
Yeah, they've kept pretty quiet about it on social media since the finales aired. I know in both of their comments, everyone's like, "What's going on with you and HUD? What's going on with you and Mackenzie?" So I feel like at some point here they're going to come out more openly if they are still dating, which it seems like they are. So I mean, this didn't film that long ago either, so it's not like this filmed a year ago. Like this filmed just earlier this year, so. I would think that they're uh, probably still dating. So my hope is that HUD, who obviously it was revealed is John Mellencamp's son, I hope that he will go on his sister Teddy Mellencamp's podcast, Two Teas in a Pod, or any variation therein within that Two Twats universe, and get more tea about both the season and his relationship with Mackenzie there. I would think that that would be one of the first podcasts he would be inclined to go on. So we will definitely keep you posted if he does end up on there and spills any tea.
yeah, for sure. Were you surprised by any of the celebrity relatives that we saw really revealed?
Yeah, pretty much all of them except for HUD, because I just recognized HUD. So I mean I know that I had mentioned that when we covered the premiere, but other than that, yeah, I mean until like they figured out clues for most of them, I did not figure out any of them. I think before they were relatively obvious from seeing more clues on the show. I guess Mackenzie, I probably guessed a little earlier than some of the others that were, went longer in the game. Adam, I had no clue until pretty
I
much the
don't even
very
know
end.
who that is still. Yeah.
Michael Bolton?
Yeah, I don't think maybe I've seen some stuff with him in it, but like I don't remember the name.
Yeah, I mean, I know who Michael Bolton is, but
Maybe
I
the singer.
certainly didn't guess that based on like the lightning bolt that was on the clue wall. That did not clue me into that at all. But yeah, I would say most of the other ones. I mean, obviously we knew like Sigmund was or Diedrich was Michael
Like,
Jackson. We knew that
yeah,
at the end of the
he
premiere.
got away in episode one. You know, like
Right. And then HUD was kind of the other one they kept accidentally revealing clues about himself. Like he was
Mhm.
to Mackenzie mostly. Like he said, about his nickname and it involved melon, and then that clued Mackenzie in, like, oh, the melon, and there was the melon clue in the challenge previously. So he kept kind of accidentally revealing clues about himself, similarly to what Diedrich did, but not in front of everybody like he did so early on. But other than that, yeah, most of the other ones I had no clue. I think that I feel like the level of celebrity was a little lower
Yeah,
overall, maybe the previous season. And what it bothers me a little bit is like some of these are like when they're like nephew or nieces. We got a lot of those this season, and that's really hard because like you don't necessarily look like your uncle and aunt, and you don't even necessarily have the same last name. And there's a lot of like, I don't know. I feel like that's tough. Like, it's a little bit easier when it's like son, daughter, or like at least then it's like,
or grandson.
even that, yeah. Like, I feel like that's a little bit more direct in a way where it's like, you can maybe look like the person still at the very least, or like have a resemblance. And I think it's a little bit easier to potentially deduce who you are when there's a little bit closer relation.
Yeah, I would say my favorite celebrity of them all was John Stamos, from Full
Mm,
House. So I feel like because his niece was on it, Jill,
yes.
and now like I saw like he posted an Instagram of her like when she got eliminated. Like it was sweet of him to be like, "Oh, I love my niece. Like she's a rock star, and she went on a claim to fame. Like all this stuff. Like he was like hyping her up, which was cute. So I love Uncle Jesse.
Yeah, I
But
like the video messages that
yeah,
they've done these last couple seasons. I think that that adds a level of showing that the celebrity relative like knows about the show and
mhm.
and is supportive of it, because season one they didn't do that at all.
Mhm.
And I think that that's a nice addition that they've added these last two seasons.
Yeah. Well, I think that's all we have on our thoughts for Claim to Fame. It was another
Yeah,
good
I was
season.
just gonna say that the one last thing that I wanted to add was Adam's injury in the finale.
Oh,
Like that
yeah.
was, oh my god, I felt so bad for him. That was a little scary, but I that was kind of crazy that he not only came back but ended up winning that challenge.
I
That
know.
was
That
really
was crazy.
crazy.
Yeah. I know when he got injured, I was like worried for him. I was like, "Oh my God, like what's going to happen?" And then he still won. So,
Yeah, he won the
um,
challenge and then he won the game.
yeah.
So, and I really like also with the finale, just because we didn't really cover much about the details about the finale, but I do love on this show how they bring back everybody from the cast for the finale and allow them to be a part of the ending, because it's not like they have a jury like on other shows that are similar to this. And so this, I think, is a really, really smart way to bring back the eliminated contestants, and because they've been sequestered, so they don't know anything more than what they did when they were eliminated. And so it's nice to have them come back and kind of help out the final three. And it does in a way kind of have serve the same purpose as a jury on these other shows, where the relationships that you form with these people when they're eliminated end up being important, because they could have information to help you brainstorm of who the other two people who you're in the final three with are related to. And they're only going to help people out who they want to see win, and who they don't feel like they were backstabbed by, or either if they do, in a way that makes them respect the person. And so I do think that that still is such an important factor that makes the finale and the way that they do integrate those eliminated contestants, I think, in a really smart way.
Yeah, I agree. It's nice to see them there and like supporting the final three, and that they actually like want to see them in the end there. Like it's like 'cause they can help them out with the clues and everything like that. Like that was an interesting part of it, which was enjoyable to see. So I hope they continue that. I feel like they will if it's like it's already doing well with that format. So I think they probably won't get rid
Yeah.
of that. And also I always love seeing Frankie and Kevin being the hosts. So they should not get
Yeah.
rid of them either, because they're great. But now I think that's all we have to
Yes.
share about Claim to Fame. So let's get into Big Brother.
Yes. So since we last talked on Big Brother 26, Tucker
Mhm.
was evicted at the last Thursday night eviction episode. Molly, were you surprised by Tucker's eviction?
I think once he was still on the block, I wasn't that surprised. Like, especially once he didn't win an AI arena, that he just was too big of a threat at that point to remain in the game. And like, it was smart as like coming from like where he was in the house, like being on the block there, like it was definitely a big shot to take, and they took it and they did not miss. So I'm glad. I mean, obviously Tucker was a lot of fun to watch, but I'm glad that the house decided to vote him out just because, like, yes, he is a really big threat. He's winning all these comps. Like, he has a lot of people on his side, but obviously some people can flip or they could choose not to just because of how big of a threat he is. So I wasn't surprised by that, knowing that he was still up on the block with after AI Arena.
Yeah, you have to take an opportunity like that, because it's not going to come again. I mean, the fact that he lost both the veto and AI Arena, it's just too good of an opportunity until the AI Arena ends, which we don't know when it's going to end. I think most people assume that this is going to be the last one this coming week, but we don't know that for sure. I mean, I think we saw 10 years ago with the Battle of the Block that lasted longer than anyone thought it was going to last that season.
Mm-hmm.
And with the positive reception that the AI Arena has gotten as a twist, which is very rare for Big Brother to have any sort of positive reception to a twist, I could absolutely see them just continuing it on way longer than they should. So who knows? And they can't, if I'm a house guest, I can't bank on the fact that it's going to end at a certain point. So I just have to any opportunity to get out someone like Tucker, you just have to take that risk. And, you know, even if potentially, you know, he has his minions and he has people that's going to upset you, I think that you just have to take that opportunity to do that. So Tucker was evicted. Then we saw that Quinn won the HOH competition. He nominated Angela, Chemo, and Rubina. Um, Depending on who he was talking to, some people he told that Angela was his target. Some people he told that Rubina was his target. But what do you think? Do you think that those three were the right three nominees for him?
I think for sure Angela and Rubina made sense for him. I think that him putting up Chemo definitely stirred up some drama and distrust in him just because like T-Core was not very happy about that. Obviously Chemo also was not happy, but like you don't want to be on their bad side. So I don't know. He just wanted to put him up as a pawn, but I mean we've seen Tucker tried to be up, went up as a pawn, was not a pawn. Same with Cedric. So if the past weeks didn't show him anything, like he should know, like yes, like Chemo could realistically go home if he's not win veto. So in general, like I think it makes sense for Angela and Rubina just because like he's not close to them and that would be someone he'd want to get out, either one of them because he's not close to them and they're not going to trust him either. But with Chemo did already trust him, so that was definitely stabbing him in the back a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that I mean, especially the fact that he was like, he put up Chemo and Rubina and then wants to make a new alliance with T-Core. Like, you can't put up her two closest allies and then expect that she's going to align with you in an alliance that doesn't include them. Like, how do you think that that's going to work? And I think that I feel like probably the better move was rather than Chemo putting up someone like MJ maybe that
Mhm.
just doesn't have a lot of close allies, is kind of on an island by herself, and I don't think that you're going to upset too many people by putting up NJ. And like if she goes home, yeah, it's kind of a waste of an HOH, but like it's also not terrible for you. Like it's not like someone that you could have aligned with going home. And so I think that that could have, if he with the intention of wanting to, you know, potentially be in an alliance with T-Core and maybe Chemo, if you don't put him up you could include him. I think that that would be a much more likely possibility, because like putting up Rubina, like yeah, that wouldn't make them happy, but I could also see them potentially understanding that more because of her close allegiance, you know, that she had with Tucker, and Quinn and Tucker didn't, you know, necessarily see eye to eye. So I think that that was an understandable move that they probably could have gotten over a lot easier than putting up two of the three of them and then trying to align with the third. Like that was just kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But then we saw that Leah won the power of veto, and it was very kind of shaky. Was she going to use it on her newfound close allegiance to Angela, who she wants to see on the jury, thinks that Angela would be a clear vote for her, you know, a clear ally for as long as Angela is in the game, somebody who, well, until she decides that Leah's lying to her and being an actress and she can't trust her. So she has probably 2 more days of, you know, good allegiance with Angela. But she was heavily debating back and forth whether or not to use that POV on Angela. Quinn did not want her to do that. Leah doesn't really care though. You know, Quinn thinks that Leah is a close ally of his, but Leah does not like Quinn very much and has made that very, very clear. But Quinn is not fully aware of that. T-Core has come to Quinn multiple times and kind of very softly tried to put in, you know, little things in his ear that he shouldn't trust Leah, but she's not fully going in and saying everything that Leah has said about Quinn. And so because of that, Quinn very much like things like, well, okay, like Leah's saying that I'm a threat and whatever, but like, you know, I still think that she's a good ally. Whereas I think if T-Core would tell him like everything that she has said, which is bad, then I think Quinn would really double think twice about trusting Leah as much as he does. But Leah does end up using it on Angela. We're 7 for 7 now on vetoes being used this season, which is kind of nuts. It's already more than last season total with 6.
Wow.
Yeah, the whole season, and we're only halfway through this season, so that's kind of crazy. But Quinn ended up nominating Joseph in Angela's place. So, what were your thoughts on both of their decisions in that?
Yeah, I'm a little bit shocked by Leah using it on Angela, but it seems like Angela just could never go home. At this point, it's like, why? She's still there. She's still
She's still kicking.
getting off the block, even on the block. It's like, it's crazy. So I don't know. I feel like there's like, I've been reading, not seeing, or seeing some TikToks about like, conspiracies of her being like a producer plant, all these things. And I'm like,
Oh
I
god.
don't know. I don't know if I believe those, but it's kind of funny. That's like, maybe, I don't know. Um, but I mean, she is entertaining, so I'm happy to see her still there. With Joseph getting nominated in her place, I feel like I'm not that shocked about that either, just because of the recent stuff that's happening in the house. Like, people don't really like Joseph right now, so it would make sense for him to be up there, just to not cause any drama there. But when Quinn started as HOH, he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna make a big move." Like, no one's making a big move, but now it just seems like kind of the status quo. It's like, okay, he doesn't want to upset anyone, so he's doing what he wants to do, but also not upset people. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think that he probably. I mean, I guess he made the right move nominating Joseph because he really didn't think that Leah was going to use it. I think that he fully expected Leah to honor his wishes and not use. I think he knew that she wanted to. Like, she brought it up to him multiple times, saying that she really does want to use it, but he kept really pushing back on that every time she would bring it up. So I think that in his mind, he thought, okay, she's going to end up respecting what I want to do and just not use it. And so I think when she did use it, it was a bit of a shock to him. And so he hadn't necessarily thought as much about who he was going to nominate as he probably should, and had certain conversations that he probably should in order to come to an informed decision. So he kind of just ended up nominating Joseph because a majority of the House really is not thinking highly of Joseph right now. And so he kind of just thought, okay, this probably isn't what's best for me. This isn't what I want to do. But because I'm kind of put in this position right now and I haven't really thought enough about it, I'm just going to go with what most people probably want me to do. So it's interesting because Joseph has been very arrogant these past few days, and which is what is rubbing people the wrong way. So it's kind of a poetic ending for him to end up on the block this week and very, very potentially going home.
Yeah. No, I agree. I feel like with that, like, it's like this week, I mean, obviously we have a couple more days to go, so things could change. But I think Joseph most likely will be going home.
Yeah, I would say that is right now the most likely, but also you could say that he might, depending on what the competition is, he could be the most likely person to win the AI arena.
True.
So in that case, it would be Chemo versus Rubina, and in which case, I guess probably Rubina goes home.
Mhm.
I don't know for sure, but that would probably be my guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's another week. I mean, I would say we are 7 for 7 weeks in terms of going into Thursday night, probably with a bunch of possibilities for who's going to go home. And that is why this is shaping up to be a top tier season. I think we're finally getting to that point. If this can keep going for like maybe 2 more weeks, I will say we're at the point where it's been long enough that I think we can safely say that this has been a very, very top tier season.
Yeah. I've been enjoying it.
So, who do you think is in the best spot in the house right now? I kind of like doing this every week, just kind of feeling out where we're at, because it seems to be changing quite a bit. So, right at this moment, who would you say is in the best spot?
I think T-Core is in a pretty decent spot in the house overall. Oh, also Chelsea. Forgot about Chelsea. I would say Chelsea, then T-Core. But Chelsea, I feel like has good alliances and kind of on like not been on that big of a radar. It seems like of people like wanting people put it up on the block. Like she's not really been up a ton, and so overall, I feel like she's in a pretty decent spot with people and like gets along with everyone. So I'm rooting for her.
Yeah, totally agree. Chelsea is absolutely, I think, in the best spot in the house right now. But look, a few weeks ago, she was nominated and very close to going home. So that could definitely change. But I would say right now, I totally agree that I think that Chelsea is probably the smartest player and in the best position in the house right now.
Yes.
So let's move on to the challenge, season 40, episode 3. This is really, I would say, our first real episode of the season where we get a sense of the format that we're going to see play out for the first portion of the game. We have gotten rid of 8 players all in one fell swoop. So now we're kind of at a normal number with 32 people starting out. And we kind of got a sense of how the season is going to shape up a bit. So the format that we have playing out this season is that every week we will have team representatives, one man and one woman, who this episode were known as the team representatives, but in the future will be known as the targets of the week. The winners, the winning team of the daily challenge, those representatives or targets will be able to decide between the two middle teams who don't win the challenge but also don't lose the challenge as to who will go up in elimination versus the representatives of the losing team who automatically go into elimination. So basically, whoever the team reps are, whoever the targets are the only people who can win and the only people who can lose and go and potentially go home. So what are your thoughts on that format that we're seeing play out this season?
Yeah, I feel like it makes it pretty fair overall, like making sure that those people that are chosen like are from those middle teams, like from someone else from the other team. Like it makes sense the way that they're doing that, and then also makes it that like they can think strategically in terms of their own eras and like making sure that they still remain strong. They can choose someone who's like maybe a really strong competitor that could go into the elimination and then get voted out. Like that would help their team then succeed in the future of their own challenges they're doing too. So I think it's an interesting concept. I mean, there's still so many people, so it's like still hard for me to wrap my head around everyone who they're picking and all these people because I'm still new to a lot of these people. So overall, I think it makes sense. I know you have more background into the challenge. So what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, no, I like it. I think that like you said, I think that it is fair, and I do like the fact that we saw at the end of this episode that the people who win the eliminations get to choose the next targets for the following week, and I do like that because then it also that's another part to think about when deciding who to go into elimination of like, okay, well, if this person wins, who are they going to choose as the next targets? And that's like another factor that you have to consider in that, okay, well, I'm going to potentially really upset this person by putting them in. Are they going to then be bitter and try, make me the target for the following week? So you kind of have to do it in a way where you soften that blow a little bit and make sure that hopefully that person either goes home, like putting them against somebody who they'll be much more likely to go home against, or kind of talking with them and coming to some sort of agreement that they won't just throw it right back at you the next week. So I do like it. I feel like there's a lot to consider in it, and it seems like a pretty interesting, different type of format that we haven't necessarily fully seen before. Now, in non-gameplay news, showmance news, we saw a little bit of a love triangle this episode between Naya going for both Josh and Kylan. Now, this love triangle resulted in a fight between Josh and Tori, who have a long-standing friendship. What were your well, to kind of explain a little bit about what their fight was about? That Naya and Kylan were sleeping together, having some fun one night, and most of the house knew that that was happening. And they knew that Naya and Josh had already before that had a bit of a moment and a little bit of a flirtation going on. And so Tori and some others were laughing about it and making light of that, and that really upset Josh because Tori's one of Josh's closest friends, and the fact that she was laughing about this when knowing that it was hurting Josh made Josh feel like Tori didn't care about him, and that fact that he was embarrassed and she wasn't checking on him to make sure he was okay. So whose side were you on that? What are your thoughts on this whole love triangle?
I mean, good for Nia. They're both attractive guys. But
Naya.
what?
Naya.
But Naya, sorry,
Yeah.
Naya. For Naya, I mean, I like Kylan better than I like Josh, but I think overall, like she's just having fun there. She's not like trying for anything serious. It seems like she's just trying to win, and so she's like, I want these guys on my side, so she knows how to play it. But I think the fight got like a little bit too much. I'm like, okay, Josh, like you're not really dating her. Like, yeah, like this can happen. Like you're literally in summer camp, basically. Like, like why are you so stressed about this situation? Like I'm more Tori's side on this because like obviously, yeah, it's not gonna feel great for Josh to see his friend talking about that and like laughing about it. But Tori like was being real about it's like I can't fault Tori for it. Like it's what happened. But I feel like with Naya, like she'll deal with however she needs to deal with it. Like it's fine. Like it's these guys both wanting her attention. So it is what it is in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's literally been like maybe what, a week that they've been in there at this point. So it's not like this is some long history, long term relationship, like even season long relationship. Like if this was towards the end of the season, I could see that. And they had like a long time of being together. But I do understand, to kind of defend Josh a tiny bit here, we saw the flashback to Josh and Tori from USA 2 where Tori voted for Josh, and I do think that that probably like formed a little crack in their friendship that they never really fully talked about or dissected between the two of them. And so that probably was like the start of Josh's mistrust of Tori a bit. And then seeing this probably was like, okay, well, now you voted for me and you're laughing about my pain, kind of. Like, whether or not it's reasonable, like, she knew that he was upset about it. And so I could see how to him it's like, okay, like, clearly maybe this isn't as close of a friendship as I thought it was. So I could see how he would get paranoid about that and potentially be upset with Tori for that. But I do think that 100% he was overreacting and it was a little bit ridiculous for a few day long flirtation. But yeah, so I can a bit see both sides of it, but I'll be curious to see where they stand now. And I mean, they could both be in this for the long haul and have a lot ahead this year. We could totally forget about this in 10 weeks, but uh, if I'm curious to see where this goes from here.
Yeah.
So the big part of the episode, though, was Tony and Avery. So Tony and Avery won the daily challenge for Era 3, and they got to decide who went into elimination versus Darrell and Jody. And they could not come to a consensus between the members of Eras 2 and Era 4, who were potentially up for elimination. And Avery had a long standing friendship with Derek from Era 2. And so she did not want to put Era 2 in because Derek was the representative, one of the representatives for that team. And because of her friendship with him, she wanted to protect him and not put him in and wanted to put Era 4 in instead, which was Casey and Kyla, and which potentially would have a better chance of coming back, and winning the elimination and coming back. But they don't have as close of a friendship with them. So, that's the easier one for her to put in. Now, Tony, for some reason, had very strong feelings of not wanting to do that, despite the fact that he does not have a close relationship with any of the four of them who they were debating between. So the only one who had a really close relationship was Avery. And so she had a strong opinion of which way she wanted to go with it. But Tony would not come to an agreement with her on that. So what were your thoughts on that before we know, what happens later? Whose side were you on going into that elimination, not knowing how it was going to end up?
Yeah, no, that was crazy. It's like, I mean, obviously that can happen, but I hadn't seen that yet in the season of challenge I've seen, where they can't come to any kind of decision there. So I was more on Avery's side and that just because I was like, okay, Tony, like you don't have an association to them. Like, why are you so strongly feeling this way? So yeah, that was my initial reaction.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that Tony, it felt like his ego wouldn't allow him for some reason to potentially, I guess, allow a woman to make the decision. And he wanted to be like the decision maker, the man of the team. I don't know. It was really, it felt weird. Like it felt like a combination of that and potentially him just wanting to go into elimination and like go home. I don't know. Like it really felt like he potentially just didn't really want to be there. And I guess it didn't seem like he threw the elimination, but anyways, well, I'm getting ahead because they go into elimination and then they can't come to an agreement, and they end up, because of that, going in themselves against Doral and Jody. And we saw this once before. They showed the flashback to Amanda and Zach from Final Reckoning where they could not come to an agreement. In that case, they both had someone on both teams who they were deciding between that they were very close to. And neither of them would come to an agreement on it, and they didn't know what was going to happen. They did not do that with the intention of going in themselves. Because of that happening, now it is a known thing that when you can't come to an agreement, you're going in yourself. But at that time, they didn't really necessarily know that that was going to happen, so they were both just like, no, I'm not doing it. What's going to happen? And they ended up going in and they ended up going home, and they probably would have won that season if they hadn't done that. So that is still a moment that gets talked about quite a bit. But Avery and Tony did the same thing, and they ended up going in. And when Karma do what Karma's gonna do, Tony went home and Avery stayed. Avery won her elimination against Jody, and Darrell won his elimination against Tony, which means that Jody and Tony went home this week. So I'm really, really glad that it wasn't a team elimination and that Avery was dragged down with Tony potentially going home. So I'm really, really glad that at least it was individual eliminations and Avery got to stay and not be punished for Tony's lack of common sense and potentially supporting women's making decisions equally to men.
Yeah. No, I was glad to see that Avery won and that like I was like Tony, like it's definitely karma because you could have just not put yourself in, but he kind of seemed like he just didn't want to do it. So or just to be there overall. So good riddance to him and I'm hoping that Avery can make it far.
Yeah, I just have a feeling that Tony just kind of didn't want to be there this season. I don't know why, but I don't think he wanted to be there on All Stars 4 either. That was his first season back in a few years, just this past season, and he went home very early. He went home for some sort of family emergency, he called it, but it was very vague. None of the cast apparently know what happened, and so there's some speculation. I think that maybe he just kind of wanted to go home. I don't know. I don't want to, speculate on that because it could have been something serious. But I know Avery kind of hinted at that she was on the Official Challenge podcast after this episode, and she kind of hinted at that potentially, that he didn't want to be there then and he didn't want to be there now. So I hope, until that changes, I hope we don't see him back for a while. That's not fun to watch, someone who doesn't want to be there. So at the end of this episode, we saw another round of karma points being given out. This was introduced at the end of the last episode, where everybody who is eliminated, they get to award karma points to everybody who's left in the game. I think between 1 and 5. And we don't know exactly what those mean, but it is probably assumed that they have something to do with giving an advantage of some sort in the final. When they make it to the final, the people or person with the most karma points get some sort of advantage there. So what do you think of that aspect to this season?
I like it. I think especially because there are people who know each other and are friends with each other throughout the years, that it's nice to see they can then, if they're eliminated, they support whoever they want to help them potentially gain some advantage later in the game. So I'm a fan of it. I don't think there's any harm in in the karma points.
Yeah, no, I like it too. And I think that it, really kind of makes you think about, I guess, how you send people home, and the fact that they could then have some sort of say in the future of, kind of like we said with Claim to Fame, how,
Yeah.
when eliminated players get a chance to potentially influence the game, it kind of makes you second guess a bit. And they don't know that these karma points are a thing. All they know is TJ saying, watch how you treat people throughout the season. Now, the only thing is that I hope it doesn't make for less drama, because it could make people not want to speak up about certain things, or, kind of let things go that otherwise they maybe would have had a fight with somebody. So I hope that it doesn't eliminate that. But with these people, I think we're good on the drama front. I don't think there's going to be too much of a lack of that with all these people with a ton of history that we've seen this season. So that's my only fear. But other than that, yeah, I like it as a twist as well. So we will see how it plays out, but that is all that we have for y'all this week. So be sure to follow us at Let's Chat Reality on social media and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. So thank you guys for listening, and we will chat with y'all again next week. Bye, everyone.
Thanks for listening.